What is it?
It's the purchasing procedures or the
Expect the absolute worst. And
contracting,
Hello, Julie.
procurement manual revision one.
I didn't have a chance to look at
I
it.
didn't either,
Well, you really didn't.
so I didn't
you got a
see it
notice
until I got up here. Today, I didn't see it anywhere in it.
I didn't realize.
I have put my attorney with news. Right. Should I get I should probably get my own attorney, shouldn't I?
Her husband is, yeah.
Do I need to get my own attorney?
He's been the ones he's helped me a lot.
Before we even talked about it, budget it, pass it, whatever.
Belt and suspenders. Speaking of belt and suspenders. Yeah, this is that PFAS lawsuit.
Yeah, no, he's good.
Gary had an executive question, which I will address.
I've got 4 hives, he's got 20,000.
But are we okay
That's
to,
the difference.
can I give the green light to
He
these?
takes them to Michigan for blueberries and takes them to California for
How
almonds.
this county,
And I'm talking truckloads full of them.
I said I would check with you.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order this agenda review session. Roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Dollison.
Here.
Commissioner Mercer.
Here,
Commissioner Dantzler.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yates.
Here, but stepping out.
And Mayor Birdsong.
Here.
you got a phone call.
Oh, okay.
Do you mark him as tardy then?
All right. Presentations.
We have one this evening, Mr. Mayor, if we
Right,
could.
for
but I w-
5D.
Yeah, but I will say the others are all lined up, and at one point, the commission had requested a more regular presentation from Lambted on the bus situation, so that you'll get one in April, and then you'll get one again in the fall. But we would like to do just an update on a marketing campaign that ties back to our SHIP program. So I'm going to ask that Katrina Hill, our Director of Public Affairs and Communication, and Cedric Cox, our Assistant Director of Economic Opportunity and Community Investment, collaborate to share this information with you.
Okay.
And this will get launched, well, she'll give the details on that, but we'll also do a similar update at the next convening of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I just wanted to give you an overview on the marketing campaign that Katrina and I got together to present and to put out to the citizens in the community. Just to give you a brief overview, the SHIP program provides funds to local governments as an incentive to create partnerships that produce and preserve affordable home ownership and multifamily housing. The program was designed to serve very low and moderate income families. The City of Winter Haven partnered with Guardian Community Resource Management to administer this program. We received funding from fiscal years 1920, 2021, 21-22, and 23-24. The program income is from individuals that had received prior funding from the City of Winter Haven, and they either opted to sell the property, do a cash out refinance, or the property no longer was their primary residence. Thus, they had to return the funds that we provided to them to put back into the pot to go move forward and help other individuals. We're currently working in the fiscal year 1920 funding. We have an approximately $50,000 balance left to complete the expenditure for that fiscal year. Fiscal year 2021, we received $62,000 approximately in program income and an allocation of about $311,606. In fiscal year 21 and 22, we received $41,000 in program income and about $489,968 in an allocation from Florida Housing Finance Corporation. In fiscal year 23-24, we currently have about $12,000 in program income that we received and about $613,073. Total program income was approximately $115,927. The allocation total is about $1.4 million for a total combined funding of $1,570,356. As a note, we have approximately 3 years to expend these fundings, because I know some of you all are probably wondering how we keep compounding the monies. And come July 1st, we'll receive another $513,015 approximately. That takes about a month or two to be released from Florida Housing Finance, and they send it to us in payments. With the total combined funding and the anticipated funding coming in July 1st, we'll have about $2,083,371. And I was getting to let Katrina get into the marketing blitz that we got together and worked on due to the amount of funding that we have. Part of my research led me to believe that we need to get this information out to the individuals in the community so we can get some of this money spent. With that.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So you have 3 years. So the 1920 monies, if we don't spend at least that amount, then we lose it?
Yes, sir, they'll recapture it, but we have enough programs or cases in the pipeline to expend the rest of that $50,000. And
So it
then
has to be expended
yes, sir.
by July 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, can I have a question?
yes.
Senator, while you're there, the money the 513 that was for 24, 25, do we feel pretty confident that we've been able to salvage that fund? Or I know it is at risk for a while, but do you feel pretty comfortable with that?
Yes, however, we have 3 years to expend that, and we have to expend the prior year's funding before you can start on the funding that you're receiving.
Oh, okay.
That's what kept compounding the money that we have within the pot. To the city's defense, and we did go through the coronavirus, and it hampered everyone, and I can tell you, in my former role, it slowed us down previously at that time, and it took at least a year, 2 years to get back on track.
But you feel good that the 513 is still in play and we're gonna get that money?
Yes, that was the projected allocation that I just looked up yesterday. As of yesterday, from the February projections, that is projecting that they have. However, keep in mind, that could increase or decrease.
What I'm saying is there was some paperwork that was delayed and it was not sent in time because we had not voted on certain things. The committee had not met enough to.
That's the annual report of the AHAC?
Yes.
That's been done.
Yeah.
That's been done, and none of this is in jeopardy.
So what you're referring to is whether or not what the governor does?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
With that, I'll let Katrina get into the marketing portion of it.
And Commissioners, I'll tell you, we'll get another update to you on what's been spent down so far this fiscal year. Tell you, Thursday morning while sitting at the retreat, they brought me a check for signature, checks over a certain amount require manual signature. That was a down payment assistance, $15,000 check that went out that morning for down payment assistance. And I've signed probably, half a dozen plus of those in the past few months of work that's getting done. And I have approved a number of roofing contracts for folks that are getting new roofs through our SHIP program.
Excellent. Beautiful.
You're going to see another DPA check before Friday.
Yes.
So another down payment assistance check before the end of this week.
Awesome. Good job.
All right, so how do we keep building on that momentum, right? And making sure everybody in the community that is eligible for this is aware of that. So started with the website and really built out a new page on the site that's a robust, and I know it's tiny, you can't read it there, but it's on the site. And I can send you all the link to it, but it's got all of the SHIP information on there, including contact information for our partners and for Cedric and his team as well. The next step of that, and all these things are ready to roll, so we can launch this later on this week, will be a press release that'll go out to all of our media outlets to talk about the funding we have available. The last time I worked on a press release with Diane, it got picked up really, really well, and we had a robust showing here at City Hall when applications opened. So I anticipate that this will get good coverage and we'll have good return on that information as well. But in addition to that, we're going to send out an email blast. So we've got just under 10,000 people subscribed to email newsletters. So we will get in their inbox in addition to what they may see in the news media. We're also going to do a very robust social media campaign. So we're not just going to post this once. We've got 13 posts. We'll probably space these out about every 10 days. That way it's not like a Ship Saturday type series where it posts on the same day every week. We're more likely to hit a wider audience if you mix it up a little bit. But the topics of the posts are meant to be relatable to folks. So if you're a first-time home buyer, or you know you need to add some accessibility accessories, or I know I need a new roof, sort of leading with that, and then backing into, there's this program that's called SHIP that could help you with it, right? So to try to avoid always leading with maybe the government jargon there. And we've got plans for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the Nextdoor platforms with that. We also plan to use our new texting system. So we launched that a few weeks ago, and we've got just shy of 900 folks subscribed to that now. So we'll be able to send out some of this information to them. We're going to do a direct mail campaign. So I have a partner that we can work with that will ensure that this hits every residence that's within city limits. So not just Winter Haven mailing address, right? That's actually within the city limits. And that's who is potentially eligible for this. So we're going to work on a direct mail campaign to get this directly to the homes that may be eligible. We're going to work on some informational videos. So Cedric's going to be interviewed and share this information, and we'll get that on YouTube and on the website and make that available as well. Some flyers throughout the community, right? So getting this up in coffee shops and diners and other places where there's community bulletin boards as well. And then staff talking points. So when all of this hits, we anticipate phone calls and people showing up to City Hall and things like that. So Cedric's already been working with the staff that's at the front desk here at City Hall to make sure they understand it, but we'll also distribute some staff talking points to anyone that is customer service rep and customer service facing at any of our facilities to make sure people know how to answer questions and where to direct folks if they have questions. And that's it. That was really fast, but.
So Mayor and Commissioners, just a couple final points on this. We've never done a full court press of this nature when it comes to our SHIP program. And I think that what Cedric and Katrina and the entire team put together, the beauty of it is it uses every tool that's in our toolbox to get the word out there. It doesn't just focus on a single tool that may be most assumed to be the most relevant tool to a particular segment of the population. It doesn't focus on a single geographic area. It blankets the entire community with the information. The benefit of that is I may not need or qualify for SHIP, but I may have an employee who does have a roof issue that does qualify, or somebody that's looking to be a first-time home buyer that does qualify, that we're putting the information in as many places as we can and trying to educate the entire community on what these services are. The churches, the civic organizations, so that as they look to do to help folks, this is another tool that they can also direct those same individuals to.
Is there any kind of a telephone number where people could text you? Because everybody texts anymore and they want to call versus, it's like, can they text somebody and say, can I get something sent to me, or?
Yeah, so the new texting service, the Ask Winter Haven texting service, if they text on that, my staff is monitoring that during business hours and can chat back with them, or even send a link directly to Cedric, and from his computer he can chat back, and that's coming through to the recipient as a text. So they're texting in, it's showing up on Cedric's screen, he's typing something back, it comes back to them as a text, and that's also the system that will translate for the end user if they're in Spanish or
But I mean, is there
Creole
like
or
a
anything
telephone
that.
number they can just put on their phone, or they got to go to an app, to a website?
No, it's just a phone number.
Phone number, okay.
Mhm.
And that'll be on all this stuff too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect.
So you said, I just wanted to reiterate that, I think what you said on the staff talking points. So all levels of staff will be trained at least at a minimum of where to push the call if they call that we, because I hear things that, I called in and they didn't know anything about it. So
Right.
I just want to make sure, like, all levels, they might not know the deep dive of it, but they know at least.
Right. If someone asks about SHIP, here's where you transfer it to.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yep.
And Commissioner Yates, I would say that just giving them the number to City Hall, because the front desk and the backup support for the front desk fall under Katrina's operation. So I can assure you that they're educated on that. And if for some reason they are not available, the next line of defense at our front desk phones is the department that Cedric and Eric work for. So I think that we can.
There's always that one employee that didn't get the memo that is the
Yeah.
first one to answer the phone
Which is
call.
why we're telling all the commissioner about it.
I didn't hear anything on EPCAR. Are we gonna push this out to the EPCAR group so that they can push it out to all the realtors?
Polk County Association of Realtors. Certainly, we can make sure we get that in the hands, not only of EPCAR, and I think EPCAR is probably the best clearinghouse to hit all the real estate markets, but yeah.
I
certainly.
can add them to the press release list, so they get it that way.
And if you know of any other entities, civic organizations, not-for-profits that are working with folks that could use it, feel free to share that with us, and we'll make sure they get the same information.
I think obviously like Hartford Winter Haven would be, I'm sure they're already on your list and those type of entities. The only other question I had, is there like do you have like a digital pack, like a PDF pack that has like the information that you can email all of us so that,
Yes, we can do that.
okay, cool. Thank you.
Using a QR code or anything like that to access?
Yeah, so the flyers, the direct mail campaign, all the printed pieces will have a QR code as well as the phone number where they can text or call the staff.
You know, I know we just got through with the application process for all the charitable gifts that we're going to do. I suppose some of those in there, I think you said you had over 50 applications, are probably housing related in some way, so they definitely need to get this information if they're not on the list too, I would think.
Yeah, so in our email subscription software, one of the lists is anyone that's applied for grant and aid in the last 5 years, so they'll be included in the email blast as well.
Way ahead of me. Good job.
Try again. Keep slinging them at her.
Really?
Anything else? All right, thank you. All right, developments of note, there are none. We'll have the minutes, comments from the audience, and second reading.
Nothing's changed on any of the second readings, Mayor.
Okay, so are there any questions, maybe? All right, so then we'll go to the consent agenda.
So your first item, and I think I saw Troy come in, he can come to the podium and answer questions on this, but this is, make sure I'm at the right one here, Blue Line Aviation, yes, okay. So in September of this past year, we did a land lease agreement with Blue Line Aviation for the development of an area covering 2.8 acres. This is immediately to the west of the existing terminal, and it was for them to construct 2 buildings. They have come back and are requesting an amendment to that land lease to expand the area from 2.8 acres to 4.9. So if you look at your screen, it's a little confusing. What's in black there, as well as what comes down along the right-hand line in red, that was the original lease area, and what is totally included within the new red line is what they are requesting, which now comprises 4.9 acres. So they're looking to expand their footprint of the land lease in order to accommodate construction of a new facility that would span 38,000 square feet and will include 2 hangars, each measuring 12,000 square feet. And I believe that was the size of the original hangars, if I'm not mistaken. But as well, classrooms for educational purposes and administrative offices for school management. So this would all fall within, it's their obligation to develop those spaces. The rent would increase under the current 2.8 acre land lease. Their rent is $3,149.60 per month. That multiplies out against the CPI and compounds annually for 20 years. The new rent with the expansion would commence at $5,513.97. So just to kind of take a swag at it, I did a 2.5% CPI over 20 years, compounding year over year. That totals out to about just shy of $1.7 million on the land lease. Plus, those buildings, once they're CO'd, become property of the city of Winter Haven. They'll be occupied and remain occupied by Blue Line, but in the event that they depart, those are city assets. We also gain the benefit of fuel sales and any other ancillary sales that would happen from their operations on site. I will note that there's a parking lot that's shown immediately to the north. That is not part of this amendment in any way. That is something that is being explored as something the city may take on at some point. And if that's a viable option to further develop the entire, commercial sector of the airport, but still something that is very early in our exploration. But what we're looking at today is just what's within that red line.
Yes.
Thankfully, I've not received any emails about problems at the airport because of all the increased traffic and all the, I know the fuel sales are going up exponentially from, I've seen the reports, but have you guys worked out all your issues about wasn't going to be safe to have this many flight school kids, students, whatever? Has that kind of become a non-event? Or are we still a little concerned? Or tell me kind of how you feel about that.
From my opinion, what I've seen over the last couple months, when Blue Line originally came in, it was kind of shaky getting everybody to play in the sandbox together. But I think through a series of safety meetings, collaboration on the safety video, you look at the safety video and it's a great product we're pushing out. But what you don't see is the collaboration that's happened internally through Blue Line Aviation and Brown Seaplane Base and members of the FAST team. And so I think the attitude and the culture has shifted in a more positive direction to where everybody's kind of learning to play in the sandbox together. And I think, with TGH coming in, they flew their first helicopter in yesterday. And I think that's going to raise some awareness for a little bit, but again, it'll balance back out. So I think it's just a matter of smart, healthy growth and getting everybody to play in the sandbox together. And I think through collaboration, we're really achieving that out there.
Good. That's good news.
So a lot of the folks, one of the things, Commissioner Dancer, I think it speaks to that. Commissioner Yates sits on that committee now, attends the airport advisory committees. We have an airport safety committee that is functioning well. It had some rough stops along the way in the fall. Troy has done a great job of building trust with that team and bringing to the table the experts in aviation, both those that are tenants on our airfield as well as those that come from FAA and other areas. He mentioned the safety video. I don't know if any of you have seen this, but we did about a 7-minute safety video.
Yes, sir.
That includes a lot of the people that you all know. Jake Palumbo, I think Jamie Beckett's in there, Troy's in there, a gentleman from Brown Seaplane Base, a number of folks that make cameos and speak about the safety of the airport in that, and that speaks to the cooperative spirit and the partnership in trying to mitigate safety concerns. Troy hit it spot on with Tampa General Hospital and their AeroMed system that is now going to be housed at our airport. That's going to create a little bit of disruption right off the bat. We expect that. We mitigate that in the best ways that we can and be prepared to answer the questions and pivot where we need to. The other thing I would say is that we are 6 days out from the start of Sun and Fun. And so that will also generate a whole lot more activity out at the airport. And I think that they've done a really, really good job of getting ready for those things.
Okay, just a couple questions. And I remember talking about this and a while back, can't remember how long ago it was, but it's great that it's here now. What was the option at the end of the 20 years?
There is an additional, I believe,
2 5-year periods.
2 5-year renewal options that may be exercised, assuming they're not in default and that,
And does that work on both, or is the option heavy in their favor, meaning can we say, this isn't working out at the end of 20, not that it would, but I'm just trying to.
It provides that the term of the lease, if you look at page 2 of your, is 20 years with 2 additional renewal terms of 5 years each. Lessee shall provide to lessor not less than 30 calendar days written notice of its intention to extend for any renewal term prior to the termination of the existing term unless this lease is terminated in accordance with the provisions and provided that they're not in default. So I wouldn't say it's probably heavy on the lessee's side. In other words, they have the option to renew it and
But if
unless-
not, building reverts back to us, and now we've got all the space and everything.
And in fact, the building is ours
Right.
as soon as its certificate of occupancy,
Right.
its functional equivalent is issued.
If they left, and this is probably in there, I apologize, but if they left in 5 years, is there any, again, not saying that it will happen, but let's say they said, yeah, we're going to go somewhere else in 5 years.
There is not, in fact, that, like there was in the Seaplane Pilots Association lease, if you may remember that. That is a whole other story. But I'm not aware of any provision that requires us to reimburse them for any.
Or them buy us out for the remaining 15 years on the lease, I guess. But at the end of the day, we get the building
Right.
and that they've paid for, so,
Your
gotcha.
capacity to lease those out at a higher rate.
Right.
Could,
More,
yeah.
the market rate may draw that
Would
more so.
would tend to, offset whatever contemplated revenue. Yeah.
And do we envision the same kind of deal potentially being structured on the other future hangars that are indicated on the?
Yeah,
slide?
I think, and not to get ahead of the game, but I think not just in this area, but in some other areas as well, there's some space at the airport that people are, I'd say, kicking the tires on. Maybe I'd like to do a land lease there for either corporate hangars or perhaps even for T hangars. Used to be a time when we could go out and build T hangars relatively cheaply and turn around and lease them. I mean, we could lease T hangars from here until the end of the year if we could just build enough of them. I mean, you've got 90 people probably on your waiting list.
2 years out.
And the problem is they're just so costly to build. But if somebody else wants to do that, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for it. And then the other thing, as you heard Superintendent Hyde talk about last week, was the potential for a permanent sticks and bricks facility for the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. That lease may look a little different. We have to kind of explore, how that comes to be because it's a school. It's not really a
Governmental.
yeah. It's very different from say a hangar. So.
I'm much in favor of these lease deals as opposed to selling the property because, as we've said before, you retain the property, you retain control of your own destiny, so it's great.
Every October, there is an increase. That increase is, I guess, commensurate with inflation. Or how is that?
CPI does it by the
CPI.
Consumer
Noted
Price Index.
CPI, yeah.
Yes.
Every October, there is an increase for the lease.
And I believe it actually increases this October.
Right.
Yes.
So,
For the lease, I think it is. Good deal. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
item 10B, Mayor, this is, we'll actually be asking for this in retrospect, in reactivity, but Commissioner Dawson will be attending beginning tomorrow the Florida Black Caucus Local Elected Officials Conference. We weren't able to get that onto an agenda to be fully approved, but sharing that with you this evening, that will be kind of a ratification approval on Monday.
Okay.
And then I'm sorry?
I was just asking where it was.
Kissimmee.
Kissimmee? Okay. Good. Have fun.
The 10C is travel and training. That is for myself, the Deputy City Manager, and the Director of Public Affairs and Communications to attend the annual Florida City County Management Association Conference. That is in Orlando every year at the very end of May. That is also when we will do our ethics training.
10D?
10D is, this is kind of like follow the bouncing ball a little bit on this one. I'll try and explain it. And Eric, please jump in, or John. So this is dealing with rain dance in collateral assignments. So in 2020, we did a developers agreement with Rain Dance Winter Haven LLC. Rain Dance Winter Haven assigned its interest in that developers agreement to Rain Dance SPE LLC in 2021, and the city and the CRA consented. Rain Dance SPE then entered into a loan agreement with Hall Winter Haven LLC for construction financing. As an additional security for that loan, Hall Winter Haven LLC required Rain Dance SBE to execute a collateral assignment of the developer's agreement for the benefit of Hall. In March of this year, you may recall the city and the CRA both approved an assignment of collateral assignment
That collateral assignment.
of the developer's agreement between Hall as the assigner in favor of Shelter Growth Master Commercial Real Estate Credit Fund, A, Roman numeral 4 LP. So, as is customary with transition from construction financing to permanent financing, the prior agreements and assignments may be assigned to a new lender and its subsidiary. In this case, Shelter Growth has requested the city and CRA consent to further assignment of collateral assignment to a wholly owned Shelter Growth subsidiary known as Term Fund A, Roman numeral 4 MRA Seller. So if you could follow the bouncing ball, it's all the collateral assignments associated to Rain Dance.
And just as a matter of note, when we asked you all to originally approve this on March 11th, at that time, we also received your consent to assign it to a subsequent known assignee at that time, which was a related entity. But at that time, we did not know about Term Fund A, Roman numeral 4 MRA Seller. So that's why we're coming back now. And you might ask, well, why didn't you take care of all this on March 11th? We would have, but we didn't know. So that's why we're coming back on April 8th to ask for your consent. And we'll be bringing it to the CRA on June 14th or June 10th, their next regular meeting. And I think my general understanding is that these entities are sort of bankruptcy proof, or it has to do with way above my pay grade in terms of financing and loans and what have you, but they like these entities to hold these loans so they have some protection from bankruptcy.
Ron, or maybe Brian might even know this, is this like selling mortgages, like you get a mortgage from
Pretty much.
Bank of America, and then they sell it to
Yes.
XYZ, and then they sell it to YZY, and
That's my understanding, in
they're
general.
selling,
Yes, in general, that's my understanding.
they're selling the debt, or what are they?
I
Signing.
believe that they are, well, I don't want to characterize it because I don't know for sure, but my general understanding would be that they are placing the debt. So if that requires the exchange of monetary consideration, it very well may. I don't know, Brian, you
Makes sense to you, Brian,
jump
what
in
they're doing?
if I'm not,
I mean, every lender's going to have
Yeah.
their own quirks and
Right.
requirements, and it sounds a little overkill to me, but, you know.
That's what this is, right?
it is, probably, but we want to be very
But
transparent.
it's that lender's prerogative, and if that's where the mortgage is, that's what, you know, that's what they've got to do, so.
And because we are public, we want to be very transparent. And that's why I built in these requirements, because I don't ever want to not know who we're dealing with, or not know who's entitled to our performance under the developer's agreement.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we're going to have to be paying someone
Right.
the TIF, and we want to know who that is for sure.
Mayor. Yes.
On the second page of that, Shelters Growth Master Commercial Real Estate Credit Fund, the first paragraph at the top, would you look at the dollar?
Is this on the summary report, Commissioner Mercer, or on the actual consent
I think
document?
it's on the summary.
Okay.
My understanding is that it's a $17 million.
It doesn't have, it's lacking a zero on one of those.
Oh,
Did I?
Yes, there's a typo with it.
are
There's,
we looking at the actual consent
yeah,
document?
you know, here.
Oh, yeah, sure enough, yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. We'll make that correction. And fortunately, I have the original signatures that I provided to the city clerk in anticipation of our meeting Monday, but thank you. That was something I did not catch. Appreciate you catching that.
Anyone else? All right. Can
So,
you,
This is the Lake Conine's Wetland Recreational Park Design Build Contract. So you may recall that we did a design build contract in 2022 with Whitehead for Lake Conine Recreation. First phase of that construction was the land clearing and the surcharge. I think we had some conversation just recently about all the dirt that we had stored out there to get the the earthen area compacted. Whitehead has moved that along to 100% design, and based upon the design-build contract, they presented staff with a guaranteed maximum price to develop the items that you see on your screen. Those include the trail systems, pedestrian walkway, bridges and boardwalks, parking lot, playground, restroom, picnic areas, site furnishings, fishing pier, kayak launch, the necessary fencing, landscaping and trees, some educational signage, as well as some IT improvements for that site that will help us with security. The GMP for this shall not exceed $3,511,843. That is inclusive of the construction, the surcharge, and the design fees. Construction is expected to start in the early summer or late spring of this year and take approximately 10 months. We do factor in a 10% contingency for the project, not knowing everything that can possibly happen. That takes the total project cost to just over $3.78 million. There's a table within your fact sheet that spells out where the revenue sources come from for that project. You have CDBG allocations, one from the Polk County as well as from the city. Those collectively are about $584,000. There's a $200,000 Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program grant. $1.25 million that has been earmarked within the construction fund for the project. Duke Energy is part of their work in that area, wanted to do something in recognition of Jerry Miller and have a little impact, a little legacy in his recognition. And so they made a contribution of $150,000 towards the playground. And then at your last meeting, we discussed the fund balance allocation of $1.6 million towards that, which brings the total to the $3.787 million.
So T, we actually have that further out grant?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was, I believe, and I'm going to look to Andy, was that not the #1 rated project in the state?
All right, resolution 11A.
This is the final plat approval for Harmony Phase 2. So this is 47.72 acre subdivision containing 144 building lots and 10 common lots. Their internal roads will be dedicated to the Harmony CDD, and the sewer and water utilities will be owned and maintained by the city. All their drainage conveyances, stormwater management areas will also be maintained by the CDD. They have submitted a performance bond of $767,189.69 for those items that have yet to be completed, to include some earthwork, sanitary sewer, potable water. Potable sewer, that's a future concept, I think. Potable water, stormwater management, and engineering certification. So they have developed this in accordance with the PUD 01612, and all lots are in compliance with that. Once this is built out with a taxable value estimated at $250,000 per lot, subdivision will have an estimated total taxable value of $36 million and will generate just over $237,000 per year in city ad valorem revenues.
All right, any questions? All right, we have ordinances, one ordinance, first reading, 12A.
This is the annexation of the ABC Liquor Store on Cypress Gardens Boulevard. So they are requesting annexation of a parcel just shy of 0.9 acres located on Cypress Gardens Boulevard, seeking annexation for the purpose of operating under the City of Winter Haven's alcohol hours, which you may recall were changed in, was it October, September?
Yeah, less than a year ago.
Yeah, less than a year ago. So they are inside the county, I mean, an incorporated county. And you can see adjacent to the west of them and across the street, and they wanted to come in so that they can operate under the new ordinance.
The benefits. I must not know where this ABC liquor store.
Right next to Red Lobster on Cypress
That's,
Gardens
that's
Boulevard.
in the,
No, that whole side of that street. to the
So if you
county.
go back to the
All the way
image,
down that Lake Lulu down there?
so everything that you see that's in white versus what's in gray, what's in white is inside the unincorporated Polk. So Beef O'Brady's is in, but the financial property directly to the west of them is not. And same with ABC, so they are wanting to come in.
I thought we kind of mirrored the county, but.
County does not provide for Sunday services.
Oh, okay.
Other cities do.
all right. Cool. New business, 13A.
I'm going to ask Eric to present 13A because I think he's had much greater involvement in this than I. Mr. Dudney's.
So, as you may recall, and pursuant to your authorization at a previous meeting to donate a parcel and the parcel identification numbers in the fact sheet to Dudney Plaza LLC on February 26, 2024, we are proposing this first amendment to the developers agreement. As you may recall, when we donated the first sliver of city-owned property to him, we entered into a developers agreement establishing the parameters by which he was going to redevelop that site in conjunction with adjacent parcels that he already owned, and gave a timeline for doing so. The First Amendment to the developers agreement would incorporate this new parcel into that developers agreement, establish new timeline for performance for the redevelopment of the property, and this will authorize the city manager, this action would authorize the city manager to execute the First Amendment and authorize the mayor and all other appropriate city officials to execute all documents necessary to facilitate the transfer by donation of the parcel in question by quitclaim deed to Mr. Dudney. There is no financial impact other than additional ad valorem expected upon the redevelopment of the property, and staff does recommend approval.
Okay, questions?
Not on this one, but I was just curious, where are we on Mr. Cameron's situation and needing to send that lot back to the DOT?
So I had a conversation with DOT, and after a few meetings they had internally, they are acceptable to transferring ownership to Mr. Cameron. It's my understanding, though, that their process would be that we, as the owners, would have to convey the property back to DOT, and then they would enter negotiations with Mr. Cameron.
How soon do you anticipate that potentially happening?
I'd have to discuss that with city attorney, as
We
we
can
have
do
to
whatever
prepare
we need
the.
to do very quickly.
We could probably get it on your,
Pardon?
we could probably get it on the next meeting if we can get the.
Yeah, I mean, what would be required would be authorization of the city commission to, allow the transfer by quitclaim deed back to the DOT. And,
Can we get that authorization on, or does it have to go through, can we do that Monday night, or?
Need to put it on
it
the
would need to be on
agenda.
an agenda, a published agenda, so we could.
I just hate to tie it up longer than
Right.
it has to be tied up, so.
This is the first I'm hearing specifics of it. I talked about it last week at the retreat with Eric, but we could get this on the agenda for your second meeting in April. And then quickly, how long DOT takes, that's a DOT matter. But-
Okay. Yeah, then it's off our plate at that
Right.
point.
Well,
so
there is
that's-
one more piece that we
Right,
own, that
right.
we will then,
But-
I guess we'll figure out how do we do that. That's a smaller piece. There are no restrictions on that, so we'll have to assign a value to that. And I don't know that we'll be prepared to do that on
I just wanted to
Yeah.
get it rolling with DOT for Mr.
Sure.
Cameron. so
We
he
can move our process relatively quickly, so if we need to amend on that second parcel, which we do own, we can do that in probably a 2-week turnaround.
Right.
After the transfer, quitclaim back to DOT, but they'll need to do their side of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And there may be a form DOT quitclaim deed that they want to provide to us, and I can get with Mr. Conway, who's their legal counsel there in Bartow, and figure out what all needs to happen, so not to worry. The, getting back to the other one, just as a matter of information, on April 8th, I would ask the mayor, and I've already provided the city clerk, and I'll bring it with me to the meeting, the original quitclaim deed to be executed that night, because I'd like to be able to record the quitclaim deed on Tuesday, April 9th, in the public records, as well as the amendment to the First Amendment to the Developers Agreement, because there is a deadline of April 10th of 2024 for Mr. Dudney to perform, or the property goes back to the city on the other piece we donated last year. So if we can get this recorded on April 9th, then that extends that deadline of record, so we don't have to fool with it. So there's a timing issue, I'd want to get that. I just mentioned that to you. It's probably down in the weeds, you don't care about that, but it would be helpful if that night, Monday night, I can walk out of this room
With the document.
with documents, because I'll run them
Yes.
over first thing Tuesday morning to the clerk's office and give them on
Okay.
record.
All right.
And to accommodate Mr. Dudney as well, because I'm sure he's interested in moving forward as quickly as he can.
All right. Brad?
Mr. Mayor, quick question, and I'm glad Cedric's here, because this is probably something he can answer me, and this is somewhat related in regards to Mr. Dudney, because I've had a couple of meetings with him, and he's about this property, and he's talking about affordable housing and workforce housing as part of this development he's doing there, and he's asking about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and whether he would qualify for any of that. I know we're doing down payment assistance and roofs and all that kind of stuff, but Cedric, do you know if a new development or something like that, new construction would apply for our Affordable Housing Trust Fund? For Mr. Dudney's a good example, but others where it's a whole new building that they're trying to build affordable housing on, will that work?
I'd have to defer to Eric on the trust fund.
Yeah, so there are two pots of money. There's the trust fund that's associated with SHIP funding. That likely would not apply in this case unless he was doing a for ownership and we could do a down payment assistance, something like that. We have the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that we established a number of years ago that you guys contribute a minimum of $250,000 to every year. We have much greater latitude with that trust fund. And so there would be the potential, we could come up with a plan or a partnership or a program for the utilization of those funds in partnership with affordable housing. It just has to be with, affordable housing.
That's the pool of money he could potentially, or him or anybody could potentially tap into if they're doing affordable housing.
The challenge with that, Commissioner Dantzler, is there's not really a formal program or incentive package that aligns with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So what we've put money in there we use that to offset the Blue Sky local match. We set in their funds to be the local match for the Winter Haven Housing Authority should their project get selected to move forward. We use some of those funds to advance the initiative of the Winter Haven Housing Authority, or Hartford Winter Haven.
Yeah.
One of the things that Eric and I just talked about, I think today, the days start to run together, the housing incentive program that we have within the CRA. You may recall, this pays out $10,000 per residential unit in the CRA when the improvement to the property has been at a level that raises the taxable value by 100%. So that's what we did with the Jade. So the Jade Apartments is in the CRA. They qualified for that, and that became a very healthy incentive for them to move that on. You could do that within, this is in the Florence Villa CRA, so Eric, I'm looking to you. Does that housing incentive would? Yes, sir. So that's an incentive that would exist right there. I don't know how many units he'd be looking to do in there, but
He's got some pretty cool plans. I've met with him on a couple of occasions, and he's trying to do something right on First Street to get something started. And
right.
If there's any way we could encourage him and help him with whatever kind of pool of money we have, because it's going to be a financing thing for him, but he's got some plans, and I know he's been very complimentary of Eric and Sean and how everybody's helping him, so it's.
I think that anything that's tied back to there's a number of incentive programs that apply within the CRAs. That housing, $10,000 per unit certainly sounds like it would fit that, and there may be others as well.
Okay, all right, just for what it's worth, that's coming.
Anyone else?
So, sorry, not to expand on we've moved past this specific item, I think, at this point, but, so what about the accessory dwelling unit?
You have
So
to have
like
a
if
primary residence to have an
Oh, it's
accessory.
gotta be a primary
Yeah, in order
residence.
to have an
Okay.
AC, an accessory dwelling unit, you have to have a primary residence to which it's
Okay.
accessory to,
I
otherwise
was just
it's.
thinking if you did commercial at the bottom and then residential.
I don't think
at
you
the
can have an
top.
accessory dwelling unit on a commercial.
Yeah, it's just an apartment at that
Okay.
point.
Like the creative thought, though, Mayor Pro Tem. If there's some way we can help, like I said, the CRA's got funds and they've got incentive packages that are in place, and, I think let's look at the tools that we have and see which best fits that need.
I just want to encourage him because he's doing something nobody else is doing. Let's help him as best as we can.
Anyone else? All right, then we have 16A.
So Mayor and Commissioners, 16A speaks to some procurement manual revisions. I'd like to invite up our procurement guru, Bethany Owen. We don't get to see Bethany that often since she's left the city manager's office and handles our checkbook for us now ultimately. But in 2022, the commission passed ordinance 22-25, which established the first revision of our procurement manual since its passage 10 years prior. But within that revision, further edits and amendments were allowed to be made administratively. So at my level, provided that the city commission received information on any modifications or changes within 60 days of the effective date. So I have just in the past 2 weeks reviewed with Bethany a number of minor modifications within the procurement manual. These are probably very insignificant to the commission at the end of the day, but we want to make sure you're aware of them. So what we've noted in the fact sheet or in the memo, we've provided you as well the red line versions of these, but it's really just clarification. So when it talks about exclusions, we note that while there are exclusions, they still require purchase orders when they're over a certain dollar value of $15,000. We've identified that when we're talking about real property transactions, that also includes appraisals, right-of-way consultants, and that are part of that purchase. That's just natural that should have been in there. And then when we talk about buying software, a lot of times we have to buy the implementation and training that goes along with that. So that's included in the exclusions. Within our purchase order section of the procurement manual, we have made a change regarding when a changed purchase order or change order authorization is required. We had that at a flat rate of 20% of the cost. That did not always make a whole lot of sense because on large projects, 20%, could be a huge chunk of money. 5% could be a huge chunk of money, and we needed to have some better control on that. So now we are at a 5,000 or 1%, whichever is greater, to track changes. And Bethany, I think that we note that when something's under $500,000, the change order is required at a $5,000 change.
That is correct, yes, that's the minimum.
And if it's in excess of $500,000, then it's at 1%. It's a control, mechanism for us. We are also tracking our change orders through our ERP program, which is how we manage all of our finances. It's no longer the paper transfer copies that take longer and longer because you got to courier them from office to office. This is all done electronically now. In terms of emergency purchases, a change that we made really tightens up our language on that says not that a PO may be issued. Let me make sure I read this correctly. Going from a PO will to a PO may in the terms of a procurement may obtain to procurement may require the department to obtain. Just again clarifying who has responsibilities within that aspect. And then also tightening up control again, that if we issue an emergency purchase order for something, say like a hurricane, that there is a time period in which those things have to get done, that we can't just have emergency purchase orders that linger on and on and on. If it takes us 6 months to get something fixed, then that's no longer an emergency situation per se. There's probably opportunity to appropriately bid and procure those things through traditional proper methods. So it just tighter controls. Design build services, one of the things that we talk about within that section is that if there's not 3 bidders, that we can forego that requirement if we feel that we don't need to resolicit. Bethany, anything else on that one that was significant?
No, just taking out the fact that you have to approve of the use of a design build in writing. It just allows us to eliminate that written portion and then to allow the PSC, the Professional Services Committee, to evaluate less than 3 proposals without automatically having to come back together in a meeting to decide that, yes, we do want to evaluate and we do not want to resolicit, and then having a second public meeting to then evaluate. Just allows us to make that choice for them.
Under consulting agreements, you may recall that if something is detailed in the budget, we always talk to you about it at the time we're doing budget approval in July and September, both of our meetings there. That's to detail out what's in the budget. We're going to buy a garbage truck, or we're going to buy, I don't know, whatever the widget is, and it's over $50,000, because it's detailed within the budget, that doesn't come back to you. It's something we share with you early in the year, and it allows us to procure things in a more timely fashion, with the commission having approved those in advance. We are updating the procurement manual with respect to consulting agreements. So if we put in the budget for a $75,000 agreement for a transportation study, it's gone through the RFQ process, that because it's detailed in the budget, that would have to come back for a subsequent approval from the commission. Doesn't mean that I won't always bring those things back to you. For some of the innocuous things, it's not necessary to do that, but on the things that certainly larger items, construction agreements, design build for Lake Conine Park, those types of things, those are detailed in the budget, but you're still seeing those come before you. So it just gives us a little latitude there. Asset control procedures, this is how we manage our inventory, all of our fleet, all of our equipment. It allows fleet the authority to determine if an asset should be auctioned immediately. Giving them, and they are the subject matter expert on that for us. It also replaces the one-stop shop within asset control from being housed just within procurement to be within finance. So it gives them some latitude on how to do that. And the last thing is changes to our contracting under federal awards and adopting uniform guideline rules. Bethany, would you mind speaking to that?
Yes, sir. So basically, this came to our attention recently with a mitigation grant. Forms were sent to procurement and to the finance director to complete. And in completing these forms for the applicable entity, it was noticed that there were some things that were missing from our manual. So that caused us to take a look online and see what had changed exactly. So this section here is just incorporating changes that have been made to the 2 CFR sections that apply to us. It's just adding that language to keep us up to date.
CFR stands for Code of Federal Regulations, which govern the federal procurement requirements that, of course, we want to be.
So whenever we're dealing with federal dollars or even state dollars through DOT, which ultimately end up being federal dollars, in order to do their grants and be a participant in LAP projects or JPAs, you have to meet certain conditions within your procurement protocols, and so those have been incorporated into our procurement manual over the years, and this is just making sure that we are up to speed and up to date with the most recent CFR. And those are the changes that have been applied, and so as per the ordinance, I'm presenting those to you for informational purposes. No action necessary.
All right. Any questions? Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you.
All right. Emergency matters not received for the agenda?
I will be out on Monday, so
You can't.
hold down the fort for me. And
We're not going to let you go.
I'll send my best from Augusta National. So.
And I understand that,
Had to
I understand Mayor and Commissioner Dawson will both be traveling to the Florida Black Caucus, local elected officials tomorrow and Friday, so wish you safe travels.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I also want to apologize, everybody, for missing the second day, the second day of the workshop. I got the proverbial bad sushi at Publix, so I was a very sick puppy, and appreciate you guys carrying the mail for me. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I was with you in spirit. So, but I'm better now. It was a one-day event, two-day event. We're good.
All right. We all good? Motion to adjourn.
So move.
We adjourn.
Yep.